Hi everyone, it's great to have your company. My name's Catherine Bell and I have been a hospitality professional for a lot of my life before in 2010 starting my own consulting business, sharing the best of what I'd learned about customer service, leadership and great people practice with the rest of the industries out there. So it's my great pleasure to be here with you today. And today's topic is attracting and retaining talented people for your regional tourism and hospitality businesses. Welcome. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I am sitting on Wadawurrung country. So I am very lucky to be coming to you from this beautiful land. I acknowledge the Wadawurrung people as the traditional owners of these lands, waters, seas and skies, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I also pay my respects to the elders of the countries that you may be sitting on today. And I acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as Australia's First Nations people. Thank you. So today I'm here to talk to you about trying to help you solve some of the problems that you may be experiencing in your hospitality and tourism businesses right now. I know you've been through some very difficult times. Despite leaving hospitality about 13 years ago, 12 years ago, many of my friends and indeed clients are still in the industry, and I work a lot with local tourism businesses here in Geelong. I'm located in Geelong. Down the road behind me you can see some of my beautiful neighbourhood down Barwon Heads around 13th Beach. And I can only imagine for all of you down the Great Ocean Road what a challenging couple of years it's been. I know that things are really tough right now for our people and businesses in the industry. And I was interested in doing a little bit of research about what may have been impacting you recently. And I was interested to find a report by the National Skills Commission. Their Recruitment Insights report said 63% of hospitality employers who were surveyed between March and October in 2021 reported difficulty in recruiting, compared to only 41% of employers in all industries. So look, everyone's having trouble finding staff. It's a pretty common problem that I'm hearing from all kinds of businesses, but it seems to be tougher for our hospitality and tourism businesses at the moment. And between December 2019 and May 2021, more than 660,000 temporary visa holders left Australia, and many of them were hospitality and tourism workers. I was actually teaching hospitality management at a college in Melbourne at the time, and I know very many of those students who left, and temporary visa holders who left. They were some of my students and colleagues at the time. And what a great loss for our industry, because they were great people, and we're still having trouble getting them all back. So look, right now I think it would be silly not to admit that the stress is getting to us. The cost of goods is going higher. Customer demands are at an all-time high. And I really recognise and honour and just want to say I'm sorry for the challenges that you've been through. But I do want to remind you of something, that we are tougher than those problems. We are the mad, crazy people who love throwing a bit of alcohol on an open fire and cooking stuff well just for a bit of fun. We are the passionate hospitality and tourism operators who open the doors even if we've only got half our regular staff, and somehow we still make our customers smile. We are the people who get up early and stay up late just to make sure that things are spick and span and ready for our next day of business. We are the ones who thrive on living right on the edge, flying by the seat of our pants. And I want to recognise that spirit and that courage and that energy that you have. I know it may be feeling a little diminished right now, but I want to remind you it's still there. We are the tough people of hospitality and tourism, and we love our work. We love what we do. We wouldn't do it if we didn't love it. So I want to encourage you to rise to this latest challenge, and I'm going to give you some tips today to try and help you do that and do it well for the busy season you have coming up. So where do we start? Well, look, I think it's important to remember that good practice doesn't go out the window when times get tough. In fact, in my opinion, as an HR professional and someone who's really passionate about customer service and good people practice as well, I think that the basics count now, perhaps even more than they ever really have. So things like making sure your staff get trained, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how challenging it is to find those spots in the shifts where, you've got a quiet moment and you can do a bit of on-the-job training, or whether it's more formal, training your staff remains a vital part of a successful business, any business. But I think especially those who have, new staff, customer-facing people, and for whom service really is the crux and the key to the whole success of their business. You got to make sure that you make it an enjoyable workplace. No one is hanging around. Even before, most people weren't hanging around, but especially now in the current employment market, no one's hanging around in a business where it's all stress and no fun. So I'm not talking about having, drinks before the shift or, or throwing parties every night. But what I'm talking about is make sure that it's a friendly and enjoyable workplace that people are going to be happy enough to come along to and contribute to, that they're going to feel welcome and appreciated. That's kind of the basics. And here's what I say: you are the experts at doing that for your customers. Please remember that you make sure to do it for your staff as well. Even on those days when you've got no smiles left, turn one on when your staff walk in the door. They really need to see it. It's important to keep working on creating that great team atmosphere. Our staff are quite often loyal to each other as well as to the business, and perhaps to their regular customers who they see. We are built to be together. And I think maybe now more than ever, we're realizing how important it is to have human contact and to belong. People are loyal to each other and to the groups that they form and the places where they feel at home and accepted and appreciated and valued. So create that great team atmosphere. I know it's challenging when you've got that turnover, but pay attention to the team atmosphere, the culture, what's happening in the workplace. Are people mostly helping each other out, mostly walking around with a smile on their face? Hey, you're doing something right. Keep going. If that's not the case, then you may need to look at a little deeper, what's going on with the team and what can we do to put smiles back on their faces. So make sure you pay attention to that stuff. I think it's more important than ever. It's also important, of course, that we're practical about this. People come to work to earn some dollars, not only for the fun. So make sure you pay well and show the staff that you value them. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but paying well and even venturing to pay above award wage or doing something else creative with incentives or bonuses can really make all the difference in terms of attracting great staff and holding on to them when the competition is high. A very important part of engaging with the modern workforce is making sure that you see the potential in your people beyond the job role that they might currently have. More than ever, the younger generations, so I'm a Generation X, maybe you are a Generation X or Y, or maybe you're even a boomer. Those younger generations, they're really wanting to feel like they contribute on a personal level, and they want to feel that their skills are valued. But this can be a great bonus for a business if you pay attention to it. So one of the really important things that you can do to engage meaningfully with your workforce is start to get to know them a little bit, know what their interests and skills and passions are outside of work. What are they studying at uni, or what was their background before they moved into the role they're in now? And maybe there's some skill sets there that you can deploy in other interesting ways in the business. For example, you might have someone working behind the coffee machine who also has great IT skills, or perhaps an interest in social media. Maybe they're studying marketing. Hey, could you use them for a couple of extra hours a week to help you get on top of your socials? Maybe you've got someone in the kitchen who's studying finance and accounting. Could you help them to get a bit of practical experience by having them work through, I don't know, some of the financials with you? Can you draw on other skills in the business and help your team feel more engaged as appropriate? Now, of course, I'm not talking about changing substantially the nature of their job, and you need to make sure if they're doing higher duties that you pay them appropriately for those higher duties. But I do know that so many staff these days are not necessarily in it, like what I would call the old days where we were hospitality professionals and we were in it for the hospitality or the tourism. Maybe they've got other skills and interests and passions that they can bring to bear a little bit in your business as well. It's always worth the conversation to find out and see if there's something interesting that they can add to the mix for you to help you have the business operating more efficiently, and importantly, keep them engaged and feeling like they're really valued for their skill set. Also, it's important to recognise the increasingly important role that tech can play in running our businesses. So everything from financials to reporting to everyday operations, a lot of things now are being impacted really at that ground level by some of the technology that we can deploy in our businesses. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the new jobs portal in a moment or in a little while. That's one way the technology is sort of set to help you make things easier. So explore the tech options that are available to you to make things more efficient and perhaps be able to run on those leaner staffing levels that I know so many of you are facing. I think a really key moment for businesses with customers coming through the door again. Look, the anecdotal reports that I'm hearing and what I'm reading is that customer complaints are on the rise. Is it because we've all got shorter tempers? Is it because we've all experienced a little bit of stress in the last couple of years? Yeah, I reckon. And so one of the very important skill sets you must make sure that your team has so that they can cope effectively and not burn out themselves is to know how to handle customer complaints. Familiarize them with your customer complaint policy and your complaint resolution policy. Let them feel confident. Help them know how to support each other if a difficult customer situation arises. All too often we leave it to the individual, and it can be a really stressful moment in the service day of any service professional when they've got a challenge with a customer who's maybe not happy or making a complaint. If they know how to handle those complaints more efficiently, more productively, and in line with how you would like them handled, that's less stress on their job day as well. So this would be an area of training I would highly recommend that you invest in, or run a session yourself. You know how you like complaints handled in the business. Make sure all your team do as well, because this really can be an area that stresses people out, and if they don't feel well equipped, they'll potentially be walking out the door looking for a place where they'll have to deal with that less often. And it may be beholden upon you to sort of reimagine what good business looks like. I know perhaps in the old days, maybe the pre-COVID days, we were, really addicted to that kind of pumping feeling you get when the place is full, when the plates and drinks are flying out, or, when the tourist bus or the tour is full, and you really want to recreate that, and that's what you're heading for. But this would be a moment, if you haven't already, to have a look at your profit margins at various levels of business and see, hey, do you offer a slightly different service at different periods of the day and run at lower capacity, but also maintain your profit margins? So, I think we're all learning to reimagine what good business looks like, what a regular day looks like, and that would be something worth considering. However, I do hope that you all have an absolutely pumping summer and that you can do some really good business recovery from these last couple of years, which I know have been a challenge. So the lens that I'm going to use today, beyond those general tips, is really about talent management, because I know that that's an area that's incredibly important, and attracting and retaining the right talent in your business can be a maker or breaker of your business. So I'm going to use this talent management lens, and let me just describe for you exactly what talent management means. It is simply the range of practices, the full range of practices that will help you attract, retain, and upskill the right people for your organization. So look, to be honest, in about 20 years of running leadership development courses in various organizations, I would have to say this is the #1 underdeveloped skill that I see in leaders. It would also be one of the top reasons that contributes to high turnover in businesses. And it's something that can really trip up your business. It's not only important for the people side of things, but also for your legal compliance side of things. So it contains legal obligations that must be met. And they do pose a pretty serious risk to your business if you get your talent management practices wrong. And it is essential to the success of your enterprise. So I hope I've convinced you that this is an important subject to spend a little while with me talking about and learning about. And hopefully you're thinking, well, it does sound important, and you might be going, well, where do we start? So I'm going to give you the story right from the beginning. In fact, what I would like to do as a good HR person is to share with you just a tiny little bit of the approach that I would use here. And that is thinking about things through the employee life cycle lens. So the employee life cycle. Now, when we think about an employee or a staff member, you know, they're coming to us right from the word go. They go through several different stages in their journey through working with your business. And so at the center of this kind of way of thinking, we have to have some kind of a plan for people. Now, you may have in your business, if it's a very small business, you may simply have a roster. You may have a staffing levels guide or plan. That's probably the kind of basics that you might have. You know that during downtimes you need a couple of full-timers and a casual, and then during summer you might need, way more staff than that, more casuals, some part-timers, etc. So you might have that kind of rough idea in your mind. I'm going to show you how to make your people plan a little bit more sophisticated and responsive to the current environment that you're in. But at the center of the employee life cycle is your people plan. And this is something that is influenced by all of these different stages in the employee life cycle, but it's also something that can help you plan for all of these stages and make sure that they're all executed really well. So an employee, when they come to us, they go through several different stages. So initially there's that attraction phase where we're trying to attract the right people into the business. We then have the recruitment phase. Then the employee goes into onboarding when they're coming into the organization and starting to learn the ropes. Through that, then we start to get into a sort of a longer phase of their employment where we should be looking at things like their in-role development and then their recognition and benefits. So numbers 5 and 6, really important for sort of that retention phase. As is number 7, they're either progressing in the business or, you're just simply managing performance, making sure that they kind of stay humming along where they are. And really then that becomes a longer term strategy of either retention for the long term or perhaps for whatever reason the employee is exiting the business. So there's these kind of 8 different stages. The first one doesn't even involve the employee. It's your plan, and we're going to talk about that. But then from step 2 right through to step 8, we see this kind of cycle that employees go through. And you may have employees who kind of loop around. Maybe they do a bit of in-role development and shift into a slightly different role, and then perhaps they're sort of being onboarded back into a different role. And so maybe there's some kind of looping going on. Maybe there's a bit of performance management happening. So we see someone looping around number 7. They're progressing, but then there's some performance management stuff. We do some training, and then they're progressing again, etc., etc. But this is not only a cycle for an employee, but also really for your business, because the second someone exits the business, then you've got to go back, you've got to refer back to your people plan, and then you've got to start that attraction and recruitment process again. And there's a couple of external factors that also can impact on this, external to the employee life cycle, but still part of your business. Of course, the culture, the overall culture of your business, which I like to describe as how we do things around here. It's all very well to say our culture is where, we're values based and we're inclusive and we trust each other and all of the rest of it. But the culture is not words on the wall. It's, the flavor, the environment, the vibe, what it's like to work with you. So how we do things around here, that's the culture. And that is something that you have a direct impact on, but that will also impact on what happens in the employee life cycle. That's a topic for another day. But then there's also the employer brand, and the employer brand is kind of what's said in the wider world about your business, what people say about working here. So what's the word out in the community about working with you and your business? Do you have a reputation that, hey, it's a really good, fun place to work. They have busy summers. It's fantastic. Do you have a reputation of, wow, they work us really hard and they don't really say thank you very often? What's the employer brand? So that's another factor that can influence the employee life cycle. And your reputation as an employer will be crucial to the quality of staff that you're able to attract and retain in the business. Now, today, we're going to concentrate really just on this kind of initial phase, the people plan through attraction, recruitment, and onboarding, because I know that this is a phase many of you are up to right now. But I will scoot you through the last few stages as well, because I think there's important clues in there for what to do with your already existing staff to make sure that your summer is as successful as it can possibly be. So I hope that's a useful overview for you. Maybe you haven't thought about your employees like this before, but no matter what stage of the life cycle they're at, there are specific things that you can do that can help retain and make the most of those staff. There are specific practices that you can employ that will help really drive success for that staff member and the part they play in the business. And also, there are specific things that really you should be doing to make sure that you're ready for the next stage of the cycle. So like I said, I'm going to talk you through all of those, but with a real focus on this first kind of phase. I hope that's a helpful idea for you. So the very first step of making sure that you're attracting and retaining good people is making sure you've got some kind of a people plan. Now, people plans are things that not just HR people like me who sit in a big office somewhere do, but it's also something even the smallest business owner should really be thinking about. So what is it? Look, it's basically a business plan, but it's for your people, right? So it should actually be part of your business plan is how am I going to make sure that I've got the people I need, the skills I need, and the human capital that I need to run and grow this business, regardless of where we are in the business cycle. So look, if you have some kind of a strategic plan, be it a formal written document, perhaps that you used, when you went for a bank loan, be it scratchings on the back of an envelope that you do at the end of a shift, or when you're sort of doing your yearly planning, you should also have a business plan. And these would be pretty basic things that you might need. I would imagine most of you would have them in some form. And if you don't, it's not rocket science. It's just something that requires you to sit down and have a look and spend a bit of time on. Even if it's something that's only in your mind, you must have some kind of a plan for how you want to proceed with the business over the next couple of years. And so what that should do is really help you to think about, well, all right, so what are the people needs I have? When I look at this business plan, how am I going to execute it using the people I have or new people in the business? So things that you should be looking at and thinking about when you're making your business plan are the prevailing market conditions, which I know have potentially changed a little bit for some of you recently, your position in the market, the economic conditions that are surrounding the business right now. What's the labour market like? At the moment, we know unemployment's really low, hard to attract great staff. What tech options are available to you now that perhaps weren't in the past, or, which kind of things are coming online that you think, hey, I'd like to have that in my business in the future? What are the industry standards that we all adhere to? What does employment law say? What are your business flows? So these are the kinds of big picture things that can be really useful to consider and look at when you're looking at formulating your business plan, and as part of that, really your people plan. So this all can help you predict what staffing needs you might have. And of course, you need to look internally as well within the business plan. So things like, hey, is your menu changing and becoming way more complex, requiring a different standard of service that will need more staff to execute? Or conversely, are you simplifying things? Are you changing how the menu works so that you really don't have a very complex menu, and you can perhaps look at a different allocation of staff resources? So these are all things that I know will be part of your day-to-day thinking. And really, this is just about making sure you've got a plan to meet the staffing needs of the business. Now, I don't have time today to tell you all about business planning, but if that's something that you need, then there are plenty of great resources online. So do be aware that a people plan should be part of your overall planning for the business. So things to consider when you're thinking about this people plan. I'm just going to run you through a few questions here, and you may want to pause and even write down a few answers. Who do you want to be as an organisation? What do you want to stand for? What would you like your identity to be? And how do you want to treat your people? Do you want to treat your people as commodities to be used up and then replaced? Do you want to treat them like family? Do you need something in between? Do you want to treat your people professionally so that they can go on and treat your customers professionally? What is it that you want in your business? So have a think about the reputation you'd like to earn here. And that's exactly it. What do you want your employer reputation to be? Now, what kind of skills do you need to attract to the business or grow within the business to deliver the service that you're aiming for? Think about now, but also think about the future, because it takes time if you're upskilling people to get them into the right place 6 to 12 months later. So what are some of the skills you need to execute the business plan? And where are you going to source that labour from? That's a big question that I'm hoping to partially help you answer today. What will make you stand out as an employer? So this is a big question, and every single one of us has had jobs that we love to remember and we look back with great fondness, and we also have jobs that we'd rather forget. So what would you like to stand out in the memory of your employees after they've departed the business? What will make you memorable? How will you train your people up to the right standard once you've got them? How do you make sure that they're at the right standard as quickly as possible? And how will you retain your people as long as possible? So these are some of the things to consider when you're working through trying to create a people plan. You may already have one, or maybe this is the first time you've thought about this, but I am going to give you a template, not for a full people plan, but just sort of some prompts to help you get on the right track. So that will be part of this package that will be delivered to you. I hope you can make good use of it. And really, if you think about it, the big question I want you to be able to answer is, what do you want your employee experience to be like? What do you want your employee experience to be? And that's perhaps a question you've never really thought about. It could be that this is the first time you've really thought with this kind of lens. So what I would say to you is, from my many, many years of working as a leader and an HR professional within the hospitality sector, is that the best hospitality and tourism businesses mirror the guest experience that they want to create in how they treat their staff. So things like, if you want your staff to be courteous to your guests, then you'll need to be courteous to them. If you want your guest experience to be efficient, then make sure you're efficient dealing with any staffing matters. It just makes sense that if we provide the same kind of experience to our employees, that we want them to then go on and create for their customers, that it really all begins with us. Now, this doesn't mean that your staff meals have to be 5-star staff meals. It doesn't mean that the staff room has to look the same as the restaurant or the guest areas. But what it does mean is those little touches of courtesy and professionalism and you know, those things that go into making a more pleasant employee experience and professional employee experience. If that's what they're feeling back of house, then that's what they're going to walk out the front and do. So I really encourage you to think about what can you do to make sure that the employee experience mirrors the customer experience. And this could be as simple as, if you're running the local fish and chip shop, hey, if you want a smile and efficient, quick service and accuracy, you know, with those orders, then maybe you make sure that, how can I do that when I'm dealing with staff, with their pay, with their onboarding, with their questions, you know, with their shifts, with how I do the roster, etc., etc. There are lots of little things that we can do as specialists in service to make sure that our staff are experiencing a little taste of what we want them to then go ahead and deliver for the customer. Now, when we're thinking about staff, it's really important that we cover off some of the basics here. So I'm just going to run through some really quick basics here. Of course, when we're thinking about staff and thinking about our people plan, we need to consider that there are legal obligations to be met, starting, of course, with the National Employment Standards. So they cover things like maximum weekly hours, requests for flexible working, parental and annual leave, personal carers leave, compassionate leave, community service leave, long service leave, public holidays, termination matters and redundancy pay, and the Fair Work Information Statement, which you must provide to your new staff. So if you're not feeling familiar with those National Employment Standards, they are a minimum standard 10 different items that must be dealt with by each business. So you can have a look at fairwork.gov.au for more details. And of course, then you've got your own award, or maybe you've got some kind of agreement, some legal agreement with the staff, an enterprise agreement. So these cover things like the minimum wages and hourly rates of pay, the different types of employment that might be applicable for your organisation, when work is performed, things like overtime, penalty rates, salary arrangements, also allowances that may be payable to staff with different qualifications. You got your leave, superannuation. You've also got procedures for consultation and issue resolution, the classification and salary structures, and how we deal with trainees, juniors, and apprentices. So again, if you're feeling like part of this is not feeling familiar, or you've never really familiarized yourself with the whole award, it is absolutely worth just checking it and making sure that all of your new positions that you'll be offering are going to be meeting these basic requirements. Very important legal requirement for your business. And of course, equal employment opportunity. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I'm really passionate about this. Number one, everyone deserves a fair go. And not only from an ethical point of view, but from a legal point of view, we are required to provide everyone a fair go. But also, this can be a really important part of your employer branding, that you provide diverse recruitment opportunities and that you have a fair hand for everybody. So the law says that employers must create a workplace free from discrimination and harassment. And so equal employment opportunity, the laws mean that all people, regardless of all of these different classifications, gender, race, colour, age, marital or parental status, sexual preference, disability, religious belief, have the right to be given fair consideration for a job. So this is directly related to the recruitment that you'll be performing, or other job-related benefits, like once they're in the job, staff training, development, promotion opportunities, etc. And this is an area that people are becoming more and more aware of their rights in. And really, if you're not feeling up to standard, it's time, because this is a basic right that we all have to equal opportunities at work. Discrimination is unlawful in the area of employment, and that includes recruitment, which is why I'm talking to you about it today, because it's important for our recruitment that we're thinking about these themes and topics in the background and making sure that our processes support our legal obligations. So this includes recruitment during employment and also in terminations of employment. So equal employment opportunity. And then, of course, you've got your workplace health and safety. Now, I know that this is a key consideration for so many of you. Hospitality and perhaps tourism businesses too can be places where, there's perhaps a little bit more tripping hazards, slipping hazards, burning hazards, cutting hazards than perhaps in a regular office. And so we have these considerations, and the law says that employers have to create a safe working environment. Now, I know that you care about this because everyone deserves the right to go home safely from work every day. And so this includes physical and psychological safety, and increasing emphasis in the eyes of the law is psychological safety. So this is about all of these kinds of themes, work methods and systems, the physical environment, your induction and training. So when you're inducting people into the business, we're going to talk about it. Are you making sure that you're ticking off that health and safety stuff? Are you really making sure that those new staff understand the hazards and how to avoid them or mitigate them? Equipment, personal protective equipment, are you supplying that to all of your staff and making sure they're doing things like wearing the right shoes so they don't slip? Staffing levels and workload expectations are part of that psychological safety. Rosters, shifts and breaks, appropriate task allocation so that people aren't doing things that are above their skill and expertise level, and creating a psychologically safe environment which is free from bullying, harassment and discrimination. These are all expectations under the law, as I'm sure you know. And if you need more resources, WorkSafe has an amazing toolkit, fantastic resources freely available. So that was just a super quick refresher on some of the themes and legal obligations that are very important when you're considering staffing and hiring new staff. So I hope that's just a refresher for you all. And if not, jump online. There's lots of great resources available. So you might be thinking, well, what's all this got to do with recruitment? And I guess that's a fair enough question. But like I've said, all of those themes are very important to consider when you're planning your recruitment. And so how do you start? How do you kind of create a place where all of that comes together, and then you can go ahead and start to think about, all right, here's the job. How do I go ahead and recruit for it? So if there was one thing that I could recommend for you, whether you're a business large or small, is this. You got to start with a decent job description. And I'm using that old word job description these days. They're called position descriptions, perhaps a role description, all kinds of different names. But really what I'm talking about is a document that sets out the basics of the job and helps people to understand what is and is not their responsibility, what their obligations are, and the essential parts that they must execute to be seen to be doing the job. And I've noticed in recent times there's a bit of a trend moving away from job descriptions. People are sort of getting these more loose descriptions of, oh, just be a customer care executive, or just make sure that this is taken care of. But unfortunately, that is really bad practice, because what it does is it leaves open the door for misunderstandings, which can lead to problems down the track, not only in job performance or non-performance, but even with regard to answerability, reporting lines, limitations of responsibility, delineation of different roles, etc., etc. There's a host of problems that could potentially turn legal if people don't understand the boundaries of their job. So if you haven't had a look at your job descriptions for a while, I think it's really important that you do a quick review. It doesn't need to be a week-long task. You can simply jump onto your job descriptions and have a look at them and ask yourself this: hey, does it describe the skills and competencies needed to perform the role? So have I described the skills? Have I described, what are the competencies? Does it use plain and simple language? One of the big mistakes we can make is trying to make the job sound fancier. Perhaps in our industries, we might have specific jargon, industry-specific language that a newcomer may not be familiar with. So get rid of that jargon as much as you can. Make sure that your job descriptions are easy to understand. Just plain, simple English is fine. You've also got to list the qualifications or training that a person must have, because this helps to mitigate for any issues if someone is doing a job that they're actually not qualified for. So by signing that job description and signing that contract, they're saying, hey, yes, I have these qualifications. So you want to make sure that those things are in there. And it describes the critical behaviours a person needs to be successful within the role. So what are the things that you need to do to execute the job? Now, the job description really does form an essential part of the employment experience, and it sets you up for success from day one. If you are clear about your expectations and the new employee is clear about what is expected of them, even if it takes a few weeks for them to do all of the different tasks and work through learning all of them, then say by the end of their first month, they really should have had exposure to most of the things that are in their job description, which is a really great way for you to know whether they're executing the job satisfactorily or not, whilst they're still within perhaps a probationary period. So that job description is pretty essential, and it can actually form part of a checklist for you to check off as part of their training. We'll talk about that as we go. So good job descriptions are number one. And you know what? Hey, number one, there's a bunch of examples you can find on lots of different websites. If you just jump on Google, there are so many sample job descriptions. I'm not going to give you a template for that because it depends on your organisation, depends on what your needs are. But there are so many great examples online that you can find, and even free templates. Just use Google if you've not used a job description before. It's not that hard to write. The question I would like you to ask yourself when you've finished writing or reviewing that job description is, if I was brand new and someone handed me this document, would I understand what I needed to do the job? That's what the job description's for. It answers the question, what is the job? And if your job descriptions are so general that they do not answer that question, then you've got a bit of work to do. So heading into step 2, we've talked about the people plan. So finally now we're starting to look at the attraction strategies. So attraction, getting the right people into the business. Now, we've all had experiences, I'm sure, where you've had someone where you just thought, you know what, forgive me, I sound a bit rude, but I just need to get a warm body in here. I just need to get someone in here who can do the basics of this job, and I'll figure out the rest later. And I get it. I've worked in small businesses. I actually own a small business myself. I've worked all around Geelong, the Bellarine, Melbourne, in hospitality businesses, large and small. And I know what it's like when you're under the pump and you just need another body. But it is really worth giving some consideration to, how do I attract the right person or the right people so that they're not only just someone to fill a spot, but they become a valuable part of the family and part of the team. Because ultimately that churn and burn is what takes up so much time and effort and expense in your business. Lost productivity, all of the training time, all of the paperwork, all that stuff that needs to happen. It's worth pausing before you write your job ad to think about, what are your attraction strategies. It is no longer enough to just have a job open and say, we pay, we give you money for doing this job. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately for us now as employers, people want more. And I actually think that's a good thing, because it makes us think about, well, what is the value proposition? What are we offering that is different? What are we offering that is of value to the team member? So that's the first question to really think about. What is your value proposition for staff? What do you want? What do people want to get out of working for you? So the people who are attracted to working with you, there will be a reason. Maybe they love the excitement and the fast pace and the great energy that comes with a really pumping, busy, fast service establishment. Maybe there's someone who enjoys more of the casual, friendly relationship building that comes with working in a friendly local pub or a slightly longer service kind of venue where they stay for an entire meal. Maybe they've got some really higher level skills to contribute around local knowledge or their customer service skills in your tourism business and creating amazing guest experiences. Maybe they're really passionate about local food and wine and they want to work in a place that allows them to express and explore that in more of a fine dining kind of environment. There are lots of different reasons why people may be attracted to your business, and it's worth thinking about, well, what is that? It's not just the job. I guarantee it's not just the job. So one of the cues that you can look to is, well, what's made past employees interested in working with you and why have they stayed? And you can even ask them. The existing people who you've got on your team who've been with you for a while, you can say to them, hey, what was it that initially made you interested and what was it that made you stay? These can be really useful clues as to what is valuable for an employee, from an employee perspective in working in your business. What is unique and what is awesome about working with your team? These are some of the things that you'll need to be able to identify to prospective new employees. So is it friendly? Is it fast-paced? Is it interesting? Is it always varied? Is it predictable? Is there regular shifts available? That's, pretty uncommon in the surrounding businesses. Is it the unique working hours that are available or the variety of shifts? What is unique about working with your team and what's fantastic? What do people enjoy in their shifts? And how are you going to actively display inclusiveness in your hiring? This is something that we cannot assume anymore. We must be looking to actively display, yes, we are inclusive. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the law requires that we are inclusive in our hiring practices, but also very importantly, there is a real generational shift and the younger generations are wanting to see, yes, we are open and accepting of all people. And as a moral thing, as an ethical thing, they may choose to work with a business they may choose not to work with a business that does not display that value. So have a think about how you want to encourage that. And this goes to the kind of language you use in your job ads. Perhaps the images that you might be sharing, if you're sharing any images on social media or in your job ads or on your website. How do we make sure that we've got fair treatment for all and that it is not only implicit, but it's actually visible across our communications? And another thing that's really important for your attraction strategy is what benefits can be added that can make the job more appealing. Now, I feel like this is a moment where most of you are going to go, oh, I knew she was going to talk about money at some point. And yes, I am going to talk about money, but it's not all about the dollars. So what I know from over 20 years working in an HR capacity is that people don't just chase dollars in employment. And in fact, there are a lot of complex, different reasons why people might be attracted to an employer and stay with an employer. And these include things like how they're treated. People love being trained. People love promotion opportunities. People love a bit of flexibility. They love working with a good team who they enjoy. They like employment that has some meaning and purpose to it, where they can see the bigger impact they're having on customers' lives or the environment or the surrounding community. People like to make a difference. I think that kind of goes to the core of who we are as people in the industry we're in. You wouldn't be in this industry if you didn't love people. And so that can be a really valuable thing to talk to your staff about what a difference you can make in a customer's day. A customer who's sitting by themselves and who seems a bit lonely, having a friendly chat with them. A newly engaged couple who come in and you take a moment to celebrate with them. An elderly customer who's having trouble with some aspect of their experience. How can you help them out? Those meaningful interactions are really something that people are looking for, and hospitality and tourism are ripe with those opportunities. I'd love to see people embracing those as part of the overall pleasure of working in the industry. And so make sure you talk about that. when you're interviewing in the initial induction of your team member, help them to connect with that if that's meaningful to them. People love to have fun at work. Make sure you can make it fun. People love to have a chance to contribute their unique skills. So it's not all about the dollars. What are the things that you can do, the ways you can rearrange the role, the communications you can give them, the opportunities you can give them to fulfill some of these other needs as well? There's a lot we can do just through the interactions we have with our team. Don't forget that you're powerful in terms of how you can make a difference in your team's day and what that can mean for the long-term success of their ongoing employment. So, of course, a huge part of attraction is actually the job ads. And so that's what we're going to get to. We're getting up the hill towards that goal. So first, I want to show you the kind of job ad that does not work anymore. Here are a couple of examples of the not so perfect job ad. All right. So the first one there, food and beverage attendant, award wages, apply today. Or casual staff needed, variety of shifts, friendly team. These are the kinds of short ads that we may have relied upon in the past. Sign in the window. Nothing wrong with a sign in the window, by the way, but if it says this, people are probably walking past. Maybe these are the ads we put in the paper or online or in any number of places. But these kinds of ads are really not attracting staff in the current market. Now, I think it's fairly obvious why, but for anyone who's wondering, these are the kinds of things that people are thinking when they're looking at these job ads. They sound boring. They're only paying award wages. That means they're kind of minimal. Variety of shifts. Could that mean weird hours? Like, are they looking for someone to do overnights or super early mornings? How much work is actually available? So these are the kinds of things that they're looking for in the job ad that will either attract them or make them move on to the next one. Now, you're in a competitive job market at the moment. It is the employee's choice. And so you want to use every tool at your disposal to make sure that your job ads really sing the song of what it's going to be like to work with you and attract the right candidates. So let me give you some tips. These are the kinds of things that you should be doing in your job ads. They've got to be interesting. They've got to be exciting. They should be professional. Check your spelling, check your grammar. Make sure that it shows some part of the employee value proposition, right? So what is it that's going to be valuable to this employee about working with you? Chuck a little bit of that stuff in there. I'll show you how. It makes people want to know more, so it should be kind of enticing. It has a bit of a flavor of who you are. So right from the get-go, it's going to attract the right kind of people because of the language that it uses. And make sure that it's legally sound, it's inclusive, and it encourages diverse applicants. Now, when I say inclusive, what I specifically mean is you must be careful about advertising for certain demographics. That's really not suitable or appropriate these days. There are minimal exceptions to that kind of rule. So you just really want to make sure that you're using neutral language and encouraging lots of different people to apply. Now, I've told you a lot about some of the legal reasons why that might be useful, but from a personal perspective, I just know, and I really encourage you to become aware of, if you're not already, that diversity in your team ultimately makes a stronger team. The more diverse, interesting, from all kinds of different backgrounds, people that you've got on the team, the better they can connect with a wider variety of guests. The more different problem-solving methods they bring, the more customer service styles they bring. There's only good things to be gained from having a really diverse team. And hey, you may not have a choice about it with the current employment market, but I encourage you to embrace that and look at that diversity as being a great step forward in your business. So just please make sure that you do that in your job ads. It's not going to go wrong. So the perfect job ad, I tried to write one. I wanted to put myself in your shoes and think about what I would be trying to attract. And here's what I came up with. I called it food and beverage legends. So instead of food and beverage attendants, legends, hey, it's appealing to a certain type of person who might be suitable for the kind of place that I want to have. Now, it's not an official job title, of course, but hey, it might attract a certain type of person. And then the little line underneath says, join us for a summer to remember. Instantly appealing, instantly shows that it's a summer job, and it kind of makes you want to read more. Our quick service cafe is looking for casual wait staff to work 3 to 4 shifts per week between 7 to 3 p.m. on Tuesday to Sunday. We're a small, friendly team who love to make our customers and each other smile. Fast-paced and dynamic, no 2 days are the same. We value diversity and welcome all applicants with a food handler certificate and a passion for great service. Instantly, this has got a very different kind of flavour. It talks about what we're passionate about, what we care about. It talks about having fun on your shift. It talks about a friendly team. We're small. It's fast-paced. So, they're not going to be surprised when it's busy. And it's also said the requirement of a food handler certificate and passion for great service. But also importantly, it says we value diversity and we welcome all applicants. So straight away, it's ticked a lot of those boxes that I was talking about for you. So look, how long did this take me? I don't know, a minute and a half to think about it and just get the words right. Initially, when I wrote it, it didn't have the second part of the sentence about smiling. So it just said, we're a small, friendly team who love to make our customers smile. And then I thought about it and I went, well, yeah, but let's make sure that it's about the whole team as well. And we love to make each other smile as well. And so straight away, that creates a more friendly atmosphere. Minute and a half tops, the job ad is written. And this should not be too challenging if you've done some of that pre-work that I recommended, thinking about the kinds of people you want to attract. What kind of staffing do you need? What kind of skills do you need? And what do you want to be known for? So I hope this is all starting to make sense and come into, I guess, a useful, concrete thing that you can do. Now, what I'm also going to do is provide you with a template for writing the perfect job ad that you can use to brainstorm some of these words and ideas if you're brand new to writing this kind of ad. So that's a second resource that you're going to have access to. I hope you can make use of it. So where would you put this job ad? Well, I don't know how many of you have seen the new Tourism Jobs Bank, and it's not my job to launch it, but I'm very glad to be able to apply this learning to this fabulous new tool that's going to be available to you. So let's check it out. So thanks to Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism, who I'm very grateful to for being able to share this knowledge with you today. That Tourism Jobs Bank is going to be a place where you can post jobs and really start to access some quick wins for you in your recruitment needs. So I'm sure that this is something that Joe from Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism will be able to take you through in greater detail. But what I wanted to share with you was a lot of the stuff we've been talking about is actually part of this process. So identifying the job skills, that's part of what we've been talking about. And it's even got a sample there for you, similar kind of theme to what I used in my job ad. And importantly, I wanted to share this little video with you because what this will do is draw together some of the things we've been talking about so far.
Hi, I'm Candice from Hire. Super excited to be working with Tourism Jobs Bank. Today, I'm going to take you through the employer portal and how to post the job. So let's get started. First page you'll see is the employer login. This is where you enter the email address with your business that you registered and a password and press login. It will take you to a dashboard where you'll see the open jobs, which are live in orange, and then the closed jobs in the past in blue. Click on post a job and the blue button up the top. It takes you through to this screen. This screen is quite straightforward. So the job title of the role that you want to get the candidate to apply for, job location is the map. So this is important because we want to attract people within certain radiuses. The maximum salary if you've got an annualized salary, or hourly rate if that's more applicable. With skills, this is what you're going to match the candidate to based on the role requirements. You can have up to 8 skills, although you don't need to use the whole 8. The job close date calendar is for us, so we know when to take this job off the app. The link to the job is actually your URL, or it could be to your Facebook or Instagram page, where you can allow candidates to get a better feeling of who you are. In the job description box here, you've got an opportunity to sell the job a little bit more, which is not just about the skills and what you're looking for. Under the job preferences, you can pick whether it's an active, casual, full-time, part-time, virtual, hospitality, tourism, whatever it is, and click post. It'll take you back to the dashboard, and then you'll be able to see your job live. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate everything. Do sing out if you have any questions or I can be of any help. We do have a QR code there which will link you back to registering your business or downloading the app. So have a magic day. Thanks so much.
So what a fantastic tool. And I think that's just such an exciting thing for you to all have access to. And so hopefully today's session has provided you so far with some really great ideas about how to maximize the chance of posting a really strong job ad on that portal and getting great responses from the right candidates. So that's really what we've been leading to, but wait, there's more. In fact, the job ad's only the beginning because now the hard work really begins. Now you're getting into the recruitment phase. So let me take you through recruitment and then the rest quickly of that employee life cycle. So during the recruitment process, some things to consider. Well, I think one of the untapped great resources that we have is people who perhaps have experienced barriers to job entry or re-entry recently who could be really just a great fit for your business. So I would encourage you to consider additionally working with an employment agency or apprenticeships provider who specialise in placements for people with disabilities or barriers, who can be such a great asset to your business, and really encourage you to check those out. And be aware when you're recruiting of just trying to replace like for like. One of the biggest mistakes we can make is trying to replicate the person who just left. And what happens is we get this really kind of stagnant culture. We don't learn anything. We don't grow as a result of that turnover. And we may even go backwards because everyone's always comparing the new one to the old one. It's much better if you go, hey, I'm going to open it up and try someone different with a different skill set or, you know, a really different background. And again, you know, saying that word again, diversity, it just really helps us to keep the culture alive. The other mistake that we quite often make as employers, in fact, the number one recruitment bias we can have is that we try to hire people like us. Isn't that funny? We basically try to hire ourselves. So be aware of that in yourself. There are lots of different ways to do the job, and your way is only one. It may not be the best. There are other skills out there. So be aware of that bias that you have and open your mind. Think about how you can make the role appealing. You know, can you use funky language? Can you use a video somewhere? Like, can you put a video on your social channels about, hey, come and work with this great team, and have the team in the back going, hey, right? Instantly, that's more appealing to a certain demographic. Maybe you can have a fun application process. Maybe you can get them to do a video application. There's lots of different ways that you can make the process of recruitment actually kind of interesting. Any extra time that you spend writing a great job ad is not wasted. The thing to remember is you're in competition for that employee. So stand out, use your best marketing skills, but make sure you're truthful as well. Have a standard to get back to every applicant within 3 days. Now, this used to, in the old days when I started in HR, be about a week. These days, those candidates, they're moving on if they don't hear anything within a couple of days, 3 days. So get back to people fast. And if you want to interview them and get them on board, you need to be moving quickly with your recruitment. Treat unsuccessful applicants with courtesy. They might talk about the experience that they've had. In fact, they probably will. And they may apply again later and be a perfect fit for a different role or at a different time. So it's really important that you think about, how do I treat the unsuccessful applicants? Do I bother replying to them at all? Well, yes, I would imagine you should. But at the very least, you know, a thank you for applying. We don't have a suitable vacancy right now. We thank you for your interest. just a basic courtesy reply like that can really make all the difference to how someone feels, and that contributes to overall your employer reputation that's out there in the public. Now, here's the hard truth. Right now, a lot of hospitality businesses are doing things like providing extra financial incentives for people who sign. So you may need to consider this, signing bonuses. Maybe you don't go for a signing bonus, but maybe you go, hey, when you've been with us 3 months, you can bring your family of 4 in and have dinner on us, or whatever it might be. Yeah. So think about those recruitment strategies. Also think about if you've got brand newies who are new to the industry and who don't have suitable shoes to wear in a tourism or hospitality business. Hey, when they sign, can you give them a $50, $25 voucher to the local shoe shop so that they can buy some appropriate footwear, taking care of the health and safety thing, but also making sure that their well-being is taken care of. It's a little gesture, but a very meaningful and important one. And make sure that you're very careful. If you're running unpaid trials, I would really encourage you to think about stopping that as soon as possible. There are very strong restrictions about unpaid trials, and you need to check out fairwork.gov.au for more information. I'm not going to say any more about that topic. You go and check it out. They're really not as available as they used to be in the old days in the industry. Phew. Okay, so you've figured out what you want to say in the job ad. You've sent the job ad, you've got some great staff, and now you've got someone who you want to onboard into the organisation. Their entry into the organisation is going to be a direct reflection of their entire experience. It's going to impact on their whole experience and impression of the organisation, and it's going to directly impact their performance, how they treat customers, and how long they stay. Onboarding is everything to the employee experience, and it's so important. I will say it again. It's everything. Onboarding in a sloppy, hurried manner will lead to a very unpleasant experience for that team member. Conversely, setting aside half an hour to welcome them, take them step by step through the paperwork, and make sure that they're feeling comfortable and confident to face their first shift can make all the difference. So onboarding is everything. Be organized, be professional, turn on your best customer service for your new staff member. My recommendation, even for a casual staff member, have a 2-week induction plan, which will help them settle in. A lot of the younger generation of workers are really expecting this these days. This is not a luxury. And really, it's not a luxury anyway, because it's part of your obligations legally to ensure that people are fully inducted into the organisation, including things like safety. So don't forget the basics. Safety first. Give them all of the safety instructions you need to. Walk them around the property. Show them the hazards. Show them the safety equipment that's around, the first aid kits, the fire extinguishers, the protective equipment. Show them their locker or where they can store their bags. Show them the facilities. Show them how to do their timesheet. Maybe they've never done a timesheet before, or whatever system you're using. Show them where the fridge is if they want to store their lunch. Talk to them about their breaks. You got to make sure you give them the basics when you're onboarding, and don't wait. Do it straight away as soon as they start, first shift, or even before. Another great tip can be assign them a buddy who's on shift with them for the first few weeks, except for the supervisor. So someone who's kind of personable, who's good at doing a bit of on-the-job instruction, someone who they can perhaps safely feel that they can go to ask what they think is a dumb question, who's not the supervisor. The reason is a lot of people kind of hesitate to ask, especially younger staff members or perhaps people who are brand new to employment. They might feel a bit intimidated asking a question to a supervisor. So whilst we always want to encourage them to talk to their supervisors, it can be handy to just make sure that they've got a bit of consistency in who they're rostered on with for the first couple of weeks, so that they've got someone who's kind of their buddy, can help them get to know the ropes and do a little bit of on-the-job training or shadowing. Make sure that they feel safe to ask questions. some of the biggest hazards, or one of the sources, or I guess, of the biggest hazards and accidents that can be faced by new employees is that they just didn't feel like it was safe to ask about the safety issue that they've spotted, or they didn't know how to, I don't know, use a piece of equipment that we all assumed they did. And because they didn't feel like it was safe to ask, they've then gone ahead and used it incorrectly and hurt themselves or broken the equipment. So make sure that they understand that in these first few weeks, maybe even, 3 months during that induction period, that it is okay to ask. There's no dumb questions. Just ask me. It is better that you ask. Make sure that they understand that, because there can be this kind of unspoken expectation that you should just know that, but it's surprising how much sense is not common. Common sense, bit of a cop-out. Make sure that you are explicitly instructing people and giving them lots of time and space to ask questions. Check in regularly with them. How was your shift? How did you go with that thing? Oh, you've just learned how to make that drink. How was it? Etc., etc. Right? So just check in with them. You're not spying on them. You're not intimidating them. You're just checking how they go. Make sure that they get to know the whole team. Nothing worse than being dumped in a shift full of people you don't know and not even getting the introductions. Makes you feel like a stranger. So get them to know, the whole team. Make sure the team know, hey, make this new person feel welcome. And a big responsibility for you or for your person in the office is to make sure that their startup paperwork is processed promptly. This is a big mistake I see a lot of small businesses making. I know paperwork backs up, but your employee startup paperwork has to be so priority, because they are there to feel that they've got a real proper job with real proper pay at a super, and that it's all starting to tick along like clockwork as soon as they start. So if this hasn't been a priority for you in the past, please reprioritize, have a think about making sure that that onboarding paperwork is completed as soon as possible, and those first pays and supers drop in right on time. And I'm going to give you a template, a startup template for your onboarding processes. So that's the third and final little checklist that I'm going to send along with this training. I hope you can make good use of it, and feel free to customize it, of course, and turn it into what's right for your business. So that kind of completes the onboarding part and that initial startup attraction part. But I want to give you some more quick tips about the rest of that employee life cycle. So I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. But step 5 in the employee life cycle is that in-role development. So it's really important that you've got a plan for developing people. Once they're on board, how are you going to make sure they keep progressing through the organization or keep enhancing their skills in the role? And if you don't do that, the evidence is now saying that you're going to see turnover within about 6 months, especially for your full-timers and those more ambitious people and the younger generations. They want to see that you've got a plan for their progression. They don't want to feel like they're trapped in the role forever. So have some kind of a plan for development and share it with them. Ideally, I would recommend that you develop training checklists for each position, so that you then have a checklist you can go to. This is something your supervisors can do for you. How to make a coffee, how to clean the coffee machine, how to shut down the coffee machine, how to turn on the coffee machine, how to restock the fridge, etc., etc., right? They can become little ticks that they can get as they're learning all of the different aspects of the job. It helps you to see that they've been trained in everything, and it helps them to see their progress. Make sure everyone's doing some kind of formal development every year. Now, I know in your smaller businesses, in the rural areas, this might be something as simple as getting everyone together once a year and going over your new menu or your new customer database, or a new site that your tourism business is taking them to, a new aspect of service that you've designed, some kind of a staff meeting or training where they get to feel like they're making progress and learning things. This is crucial for ongoing satisfaction of their basic human needs in the job. People need to feel they're making progress. So, if you've got time and room and budget for it, then sure, something more formal. But you can do so much great training for your staff informally on the job, or, you know, a single session through the year where everyone gets together and learns something new. A new supplier comes in and help, and you get to taste their goods, or you go visit a new venue, a sister venue, somewhere down the road that you can refer guests to. The opportunities are really endless. Make sure you got some on-the-job coaching going on, cross-training, job share. These are all good options to help you retain staff, because people need to feel they're making progress. Here's the tip. If they don't feel they're making progress in your business, once they get itchy feet, they'll just move on. So this is one of the reasons why people move on from businesses, is because they're not making progress and they're getting frustrated. So they go to another role to feel like they're making progress. Get rid of that. Train them, develop them, cross-train them, give them different experiences within your business. You retain them longer. Seek ways to help people expand their skills, but don't push them if they're not interested. You may have someone who's really happy to just do the job that they were hired for. That's fine too. Not everyone has that ambition, but you'd be surprised how many do. And if you feel like you've got someone really ambitious on your hands, then find out, you know, what is it they want in the future, and can you help them achieve that in the organization? If you've got a young, real go-getter saying, hey, I want to be a supervisor, you know, by the time I'm 22, then can you get a step plan going to help them achieve that within your business if you want to retain them? That is far better than them leaving to go to the competition and take all of those skills with them when they see a supervisor role advertised over there. So get to know your people and what their ambitions are, what they want to achieve in the next few years, and can you help them achieve that within your own business? It may be possible. Now, once they're in the role and they're ticking along nicely, make sure your recognition and benefits are also rewarding them. So my number one tip for any business, for any leader, anywhere in the world, is to say thank you to your staff often. Do it every day if you possibly can. There was a big survey done a long time ago across tens of thousands of employees about what they wanted from employment. And it was a big cross-cultural survey across a lot of different countries. And number one on the list was proper recognition from my boss. Number two on the list was better pay. I don't know if you hear that, but we all think it's about the money. It's not. Now, I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but it's a very good tip that if you thank and recognize your team for what they've done as often as possible, they're going to feel more valued. So for the person who's been struggling for a long time and finally has a shift where they don't make that error, notice it. Say thank you to them. Say to them, hey, you got it right this time. Well done. For the person who has been struggling for ages to get a certain skill right and they finally achieved it, tell them. Let them know, hey, good job. For someone who handled a really difficult customer, acknowledge them. Say to them, thanks for handling that. You did it really well. And if nothing else, you can say, hey, thanks for your hard work today as they walk out the door. It is one of the simplest things you can do to make a big difference to how your staff feel. So do it often. Recognize and celebrate the small and large wins, but also celebrate the learnings. When someone's messed something up, but then learned how to do it better, celebrate that with them. Ensure that you're paying people the right salary or hourly rate as required by the law and their duties, and check this regularly. The laws can change, the pay amounts can change. Stay on top of it. Ensure that your superannuation is being paid regularly. I know you have an option of holding it back and only paying every now and then, but please, your staff notice and it worries them more than you think it does. So as much as you can, just get on top of that super and pay it out regularly. Address any pay questions or requests for a pay rise urgently. So don't say to them, yeah, we'll think about that in 3 months. Treat it seriously. Sit down with them, talk to them. Show it the respect it deserves, because if you don't, they will walk. It's as simple as that. So the answer may be no. In fact, I'd imagine quite often it's going to be no. But treating the request with respect, sitting down, talking to them about it, and finding out, the reasons for their requests can be just as useful as saying yes. It shows that you've given them that due consideration. Add benefits that help the team feel good about their work. So please mix it up. Respect the diversity in your team. Not everyone wants a pint at the end of their shift. Not everyone wants to go out and drink hard, once a quarter. In fact, some people may culturally, health-wise, or just for health or just for personal reasons not want to do that. So think about what else you can add. Can you add a lawn bowls day, team celebration at the end of summer, to celebrate a big season? Can you have a staff meal together and treat it like a family meal with big shared platters and a celebration of a big week that you've just gotten through? What can you do as a creative, imaginative, and generous service giver that can reward the staff and help them feel good about their work? What positive customer comments can you share with them and celebrate with them that are going to help them know they're making a difference? It doesn't take much, just a little creativity. It doesn't even have to cost anything. In fact, I would say to you, be careful about over rewarding people with bonuses, because if you do it too regularly, they can come to really expect it. And if the bonus is massive, it may be enough incentive for them to quit and go and have a holiday. So I think the more meaningful recognition and benefits are those that help build the team and build the skills of the people in the team. Make it meaningful. Make it aligned with what they want, not what you want. Yeah. So you've got a team member who's shown again and again that they're really keen on becoming a supervisor. They've just done a massive, huge amount of work and had some really big wins. Hey, next time you're sending someone on a first aid course, could you send them? Could that be a little thank you and bonus to them for the work they've done? There are so many ways that you can reward your team that can be part of your regular business cycle. So give it a thought and get creative. Once we get to step 7 in the employment cycle, we're talking about progression and performance. So just, monitor progress and give feedback. Consider having a weekly or monthly catch up with your key staff, and make sure that your expectations of their role are clear. You give clear feedback in a psychologically safe manner. That is, not yelling and screaming, not calling them any kind of names. Not that I think you would do that, but sitting down and reasonably rationally talking to them if there's a problem and working together to find a solution. Your performance reviews, the trend these days is that they should be more than annual. If you really want to power up performance, consider using strengths-based psychology. Again, not something that I can talk to you about in great detail here, but essentially if you emphasize the strengths that the person has and ask them to deploy those strengths in areas where they're struggling, there is a huge impact on their performance over the next 3 months. Over 50% improved performance if you only give deficit feedback of what they did wrong. So at least be balanced. In a performance review, tell people what they did well and what they didn't do so well and how to improve. At least try and be balanced. Give them the positive feedback. Use fair, consistent standards of performance management. Have a strong, legally sound policy and stick to it. Don't make exceptions. Don't have favorites. This can go legal very quickly. So get advice from your industry bodies. They have plenty of information available. And if you're unsure, Fair Work is a great place to start. And my number one tip for great performance management and making sure that your talent stays with you is address small problems early before they blow out. If you've got a team member who's rocking up 5 minutes late pretty consistently, don't wait until it's 15 minutes late every day and then you blow your stack. That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't teach them anything. It doesn't help your stress levels, and it impacts negatively on the other people in the business. So if you've got a problem and you're seeing it's there, just address it while it's small. before it blows up. Ask what you can do to support them to change. Be consistent. Apply the same rule to everyone. Yeah? This is very important legally. Offer extra training or resources if they need it. If it turns out this person's mucking up every coffee they make because they never got their coffee training, then give them the training. If it turns out they're mucking up the coffees because they didn't understand the training, retrain them. Ask them what they need. Check in on them frequently and don't let go until you see the performance improvement that you need. This is my number one tip for successful staff management. Address the problems early, often, and while they're small. And it just becomes part of your continuous improvement cycle. And like I said before, find out what they want in the future and maybe you can help them get it. Phew. So finally, we're at the final stage of that employee life cycle. Step 8 is retain your staff or perhaps assist them with their exit. People leave organisations for so many different reasons. They're moving on, they're moving house, they've changed relationships, they've got a change in their life circumstances, they've got a different opportunity. There's so many reasons. And so there's no reason why that exit should be unpleasant. Now, retention is just an ongoing process. So keep doing all the things I've taught you. Engage with them, monitor, adjust, be prepared for change. As your team member grows, as your business grows, there will be niggly bits that don't match anymore. Give them the training, give them the upskilling, use performance management if you need to do so. And then if they're exiting, hey, it's as important as onboarding. It's the last thing that will happen to them when they leave, and it will go directly to your employer reputation. So the ultimate sign of respect is treating them as well on their exit as you did on their entry. So things like making sure your exit paperwork is done, it's timely, it's treated with respect. Maybe you conduct an exit interview and talk to them about what were the great parts and what were the things that they would have loved to have seen improved in the business. Give them a proper farewell. Don't just let people walk out of the business never to be seen again, unless that's what they want. Give them a proper farewell. Have a glass of wine or a pizza at the end of their shift or whatever it might be. Are you giving references? If you are, make sure it's a policy that you apply to everybody, not just favoritism. This is another area where employment law can say you're discriminating. So be careful, have a policy about who you give a reference to, what form you give it in, and then consistently stick with that policy. Make sure no matter what their employment was like, say to them as they exit the business, thank you for everything you did. It's a final little impression that you can make on them that can help in the long term your reputation in the community. And if you need to, you can keep the door open. Say to them, hey, you're always welcome back. If that's the kind of staff member they were, then you never know. They might come back in 6 months and say, yep, the grass wasn't greener. I'd love to come back. Hey, why not? So these are all great strategies to really round out that life cycle experience. Phew. All right, so that's the entire employee life cycle. I've given you as much as I possibly can in the limited amount of time that we've had together today, but really emphasizing how important that initial phase is for your attraction and retention of the right people. So I want to wish you a great summer ahead. Lots of luck with your recruitment. I hope you find some fabulous people to work with and train up. And I encourage you to look at this as an opportunity to freshen up your business, freshen up your outlook, and get some great new staff on board who can help you take your business to even greater heights. I want to say thank you to you all for your attention and to Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism for the opportunity to present to you today. Accompanying this video will be those templates that I suggested for you. And good luck, everyone. Have a great summer and best of luck for your business. Thank you.